Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Blood Show podcast. I am tuning in from the back of my car again, and like I said last time, it's working for me, so I'm sticking with it. I'm really excited about what I'm bringing to the podcast today, and so today I'm going to be talking about confidence. Now, I asked a couple of my friends if they would describe me as a confident person, and I've gotten that from people like over the years that I just carry myself very confidently and I just come off like a pretty confident person. And while now I would consider myself a pretty confident person, I definitely have not always been confident, and I think that the reason I've been able to appear confident over the years is basically just because I was really good at faking it. And so today I want to kind of talk about what that looked like for me, and also I want to give like tangible advice and tips on how to be like genuinely confident. Nobody should have to walk around faking something like confidence. You are able to be confident in a genuine way. And I also want to express that, like, nobody's born confident. I think people are born prideful. Me, I was born very prideful. I think that people are born conceited. I think people are born outspoken. All of those things I think can make a person look confident, but genuine confidence is something that is learned. When we're talking about confidence, I think a question that comes to mind is like, what is confidence? And when I think about a confident person, I think about somebody who is sure of themselves, somebody who knows who they are, they know what they want. Their beliefs and interests and disinterests don't change based on who they're with. They're kind, they're gentle, they're outspoken, but they know when to not speak. So I want to talk a little bit about identity. I know that I've talked about this before, but I just think that it's so important, and I think that this is something that we often need to be reminded of, because it really does affect how confident we are. It affects how we feel about ourselves. Like, identity is going to drive your ship in a sense. And so I want to make sure that you're going in the right direction, because it's important. So when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about for this, I was thinking about like, what's the opposite of confidence? And the first thing that came to mind was insecurity. So I want to touch on that. Listen, everybody has insecurities. I don't think I've ever met a single person with zero insecurities. Whether it's body image or, feeling like people don't like you, or feeling like you're not good at making friends, feeling like you're not good enough at whatever sport you play. There's a lot of things, feeling like you're not good enough for a relationship, for a guy, for a girl. Like, there's so many things that we can be insecure about. And I think that it's how you respond to those insecurities that goes to prove who you are, and it shows your character, and it shows what you choose to believe about yourself. So for me, growing up, I had a lot of insecurities surrounded around body image. I wanted to look like everybody else, or what I thought that everybody else looked like. And that was something that I struggled with for a really long time. And honestly, I would be lying if I said that I wasn't still insecure about that. There's a lot about myself that I've come to accept, and I no longer look at my body as like, man, like, why was I made like this? Like, there's something wrong with me. I am a dancer. If you didn't know, most of the people watching this probably know this. I've come to view my body as something that the Lord created for me to be able to dance the way that I dance, for me to be able to live the way that I live. And I've come to view my body less as something that should be attractive to other people and something that people should be jealous of and something that, I should want to show off and this and that. Because your body was not made to look good to other people. Like, your body was made to sustain you, and your body is so much more than the way that it looks. And so, honestly, I don't think about the way that my body looks as much as I used to. Because, honestly, I don't have time to do that anymore. Because when you start to prioritize thinking about other things over thinking about your body and other insecurities, you just start to feel a little more free because it's like, no, I don't like everything about my body, but I can choose to appreciate what's good about my body and move on, Because if I choose to dwell on the things that I don't like about my body, then I'm choosing to be sad and insecure, and it's going to lead me to things like jealousy and pride and discontentment. And while you may think that that only affects you, it doesn't. It 100% affects the people around you. It can so easily put you in such a negative headspace, and I am a firm believer in not talking about a lot of your insecurities out loud. Not only are you projecting your insecurities onto somebody else, but you're just speaking negativity into the space around you. And nobody needs that, Another thing that I feel like I've been insecure about over the years is just a lot about my personality. I'm not a super enthusiastic person, I guess. I'm not gonna be the loudest one in the room. I might be laughing the loudest, but I'm not gonna be the one talking the loudest. I'm not really one to command the room. There's just people who are super outgoing and super funny, and they literally just command the room when they're in a room, and it's they just draw people towards them because they're so fun and loud in a good way. And my best friend in high school was like that, she just commanded a room. She was so funny. She was super outgoing, people loved being around her because she was just able to make light of any situation, and people are drawn to that. But for me, who was a little more quiet, a little more reserved, I viewed that as something I should be and something that I was never going to be able to attain. And half of that is true. I was never going to be her, but I was never meant to be her. There's a lot about who I am that she doesn't have, and that doesn't take away from how great she is, just as how great she is doesn't take away from how great I am. And I honestly hate talking about how great I am or how great other people are, because we're all sinful, we're all bad in a sense. And so I don't say that to be prideful or to even plant a seed of pride in you, but I just say that to be man, you don't have to be self-loathing about who you are. You don't have to be so insecure that you just shut yourself off, because that's exactly what I would do. I would be so insecure that I would just shut myself off from other people, and I just I wouldn't be myself, I would either conform to what I felt like other people wanted me to be, or I just wouldn't really be anything at all. And I would, come home and I would be upset, and I would just sit there being man, I wish I was like her, and I wish that I had this, I wish that I was that. And man, like, wishful thinking is gonna tear you apart. It is going to tear you apart. Those were just some of the most dull moments in my life. And if that's you, I want you to know that you do not have to stay there. There is so much life and abundance in being who God created you to be. And I want to talk about how you figure out who God created you to be. Number one, best way for you to figure out who God created you to be is to figure out who God is. If you don't know a lot about God, if you don't read your Bible, if you're not a Christian, then obviously you're not going to know who God is. But I really would encourage you to look into it. I'm not saying that you have to believe it. I can only testify to what knowing God has done for me in my life, and it's been the best decision that I've ever made. There's no way to figure out who you were created to be without knowing the one who created you. That's why I want to know who God is. And also, like, I want to say that, like, I still don't know everything about God. Like, God is so incomprehensible that we will spend the rest of our lives figuring out who God is. There's no end point. There's no, like, I've learned everything I could about God and, I've reached the end. Like, that's not a thing. We will spend the rest of our lives trying to figure out who God is, and that's not to be discouraging. Like, that's encouraging, because everything about God is good, and it's like someone who holds that amount of goodness, that's just so cool. That is so cool. And so, you got to figure out who God is. Once you commit to figuring out who God is, God will reveal who he created you to be. And he does this through scripture. He does this through prayer. He does this through conviction. When it comes to figuring out who you are, I think that it's so important to let yourself be alone. In high school, there were a lot of times that I would take to be by myself, simply because I'm like kind of an introvert. I'm kind of an extrovert, kind of an introvert, but I do really appreciate alone time. But in that alone time, I was watching Netflix, I was watching TikTok, and when I started to take time to just be by myself and to be intentional in that time by myself, the Lord just grew me in so many ways. Another way that really grew me was therapy. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the way that I operate and the way that I respond to things. And it was so helpful, because in learning to be confident, you have to be self-aware. You have to be able to know your strengths and know your weaknesses and know how you respond to certain situations, know your triggers so that you can combat them. Something that I learned in therapy that was really helpful to me was that I had a really hard time voicing my opinions. I would get into situations where I was unable to voice when I was uncomfortable, or voice when I was upset, or voice when I didn't like something. And it created a lot of anxiety and disappointment and regret. And I now know that that's one of my weaknesses. And I reached a point where I was like, yeah, something's wrong. I don't want to do this. I want to be able to stand firm in who I am and my beliefs and my boundaries. And I was unable to do that because I so badly wanted to please someone else. So I know that therapy and counseling looks different for everybody else. It might look like, talking with a mentor, talking with somebody who's just walked through a little more life than you have. Whatever it looks like, whatever you have to do, do it, because the payoff is amazing. Like I still have a lot of people-pleasing tendencies, but it's just gotten so much better, and it's allowed me to be so much more confident because I'm no longer afraid to express what I want, express what I'm not okay with, and that has served me so well, and it's served the people around me well. Getting into a little more of how I appeared so confident during times when I wasn't really confident. As a lot of you know, I danced my whole life, and so a lot of my time was spent inside the dance studio. A lot of my friends I've met through dance, and so a lot of people that are close to me have seen me in the dance setting. Now, I would say from like age 12 to probably age 16, I struggled with a lot of jealousy issues, and I would try to mask it and I would try to hide it, but it would come out because I wasn't dealing with it in a healthy way. I would say when things were going really well at dance, like whenever I was put in the front for routines, or I was getting a lot of compliments, then like my confidence was up there. Like I had no issues. I was nice to everybody. I was nice to my teachers. Like everything was good. But whenever I wasn't getting as many compliments, whenever I was in the back for something, it was like my confidence was shattered. And that's why I don't really think that it was ever confidence, because it was just so wavering. My confidence was in all of the wrong things. But when I finally started to put my confidence in the one thing that I knew was stable, it changed the whole game for me. I mean, relying on someone who is always reliable is the best thing. And it can't be your boyfriend. It can't be your girlfriend. It can't be your mom. It can't be your dad. It can't be your brother. It can't be your sister. It can't be your best friend. Your confidence has to come from the Lord. And I think that God uses people to speak life into us, speak truth, but you can't be completely dependent on what everybody else says about you, because it can build you up, but it can also really tear you down. But when your confidence is in the Lord and it's in who He says that you are, you're set. Like, you're good. Like, nobody can tell you that you're better than you actually are. Nobody can tell you that you're worse than you are. Like, if you only believe what God says about you, then you can easily shake off what everybody else says about you. And while it can hurt your feelings in a moment, and it can make you feel really good about yourself in a moment, like, you're able to step back and be like, okay, hey, well, this person said that I was really amazing, and while I am worthy of love, because God tells me that, I'm still sinful, and I'm no better than anybody else. Or on the contrary, when somebody tells me that I'm horrible at dance, it's gonna hurt my feelings in the moment, but I'm able to step back, and I'm able to say, hey, this person said that I was a horrible dancer, but I know that this is a gift that the Lord has given me, not to impress other people, not to think more highly of myself, but He gave this to me to share with other people and to bring glory to Him. The main point I really want you to get from this is to put your confidence in something sustainable. And truthfully, I haven't found anything more sustainable than God. I think it's so important to know what's stable, to know what's not stable. And it doesn't mean that you can't be encouraged by someone else. It doesn't mean that you can't be disappointed in somebody else. But it just means that At the end of the day, if your identity is rooted in something that's unwavering and unchanging, then no matter what anybody else says or does to you, you're going to be okay. That concludes today's episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope that you were encouraged and challenged. If you haven't already, follow the podcast on my social medias. They will be linked in the description. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys on the next episode.